Lay low. Play it cool. Never give in. Never be super duper extra quick to believe certain things that people are telling you. You know, they're likely going to pump your head up and tell you there's something about you that can heighten my life and lift me up. Take it easy. Take it with a grain of salt.
Story motherfucking time. Thank you for joining. So, what did we title the last one? Do you remember? Unseen Neighbor. Boom. So this is part 2 of Unseen Neighbor. Some time ago, I told you guys a story. It was titled Unseen Neighbor. This is part 2. Okay, so in part 1, basically what I said was this daughter came into the emergency department with her mother, basically stating that a lot of what her mother was saying wasn't normal. Basically, her mom was saying that she heard noises from her neighbor and she would beat the ceiling with a broom. She ended up having a fracture because she stood on the rolly chair to reach the ceiling, to beat the ceiling with the broom to get her neighbors to stop making ruckus. The daughter confirmed that there is no one up there. No one lives up there. And so she came to me as the nurse at the time and said,
listen, I don't know what it is about you, but I felt inclined to come to you and ask you for your assistance because it just feels right. It feels like you know what to tell us to do.
So in that time, I didn't mention that it was my grandmother that I had reached out to. I just said, listen, I know a close friend who knows a lot about these things. Now, when I reached out to my grandmother cautioned me. She said,
listen, I'm not giving out any specific instructions. These things are serious. It's a big deal and it traces directly back to me. I need to be careful and so do you.
And I don't know if y'all remember me telling y'all this in a previous story where my grandmother explained any spiritual energy that senses that there's something in you that can suppress them, their intent then immediately becomes to suppress you in any way that they can. Remember, spiritual energies and entities, that it's contagious. It can be shared. It can go from person to person. So my grandmother was like,
you could just tell her to read a couple of Psalms. 27, 37, 91.
It wasn't anything extra specific. Those Psalms can literally be given to anyone to read. But she just said,
just give them that information and the truth will reveal itself in time as far as whether or not there's actually something going on, or if someone's just really trying to get to the core of what you have or something that threatens them. Don't be specific. Don't carry this on.
And I know that that was a specific part that I had not put in there, and that was mainly because my grandmother wasn't necessarily taking it seriously. And I don't want to say she wasn't taking it seriously. It was more or less she wasn't really convinced that it was a major issue, that it was an actual situation that needed to be fixed. In other words, she just kind of felt like there was an ulterior motive, that there was something else going on, that there was something that they were trying to obtain or achieve, and you know, they were testing the waters to see if I was someone that would be able to help them with it. And this is something that she wanted me to understand, that there are people that deal with the spiritual world in ways that they shouldn't. And sometimes they end up in situations that they shouldn't be in. And a lot of times when that happens, they do sense, they do pick up on people that are spiritually strong or that possess some sort of ability that they may not even be aware of that can be useful to them. And when I say they, I mean the individual that possesses the ability. And so fast forward, that part where I ran into her in the grocery store, I felt like when my grandmother had said to me,
in time things will reveal itself.
She had expressed to me,
you'll know whether or not it was a big deal, whether or not it was actually an issue. You're gonna run into this person again, and the truth will reveal itself.
So her being so exceptionally vague about things ending up working out and things went well and what you said worked, which again was just the Psalms, my grandmother, felt like that was an indication that it wasn't whatever it was. It may have been a situation that they got themselves in. It wasn't necessarily something that they needed deliverance from because they stumbled upon, unfortunately or by mistake. It was something that they may have stumbled upon because they were dabbling in things that they shouldn't have been dabbling in. And when you get involved in those situations thinking that you're helping out, you're really just getting tied into it as well because there's more pieces that they need. And you might be the piece. And so my grandmother was basically telling me she didn't want me to be the piece. And so when, like I was saying before, when I had ran into her at that grocery store and she was like,
Oh my gosh, hello, everything went so well. What you said worked.
it was just a confirmation that my grandmother was basically saying,
Lay low. Play it cool. Never give in. Never be super duper extra quick to believe certain things that people are telling you. They're likely going to pump your head up and tell you there's something about you that can heighten my life and lift me up. Take it easy. Take it with a grain of salt.
and this is why I am so incredibly, exceptionally happy that I have this woman in my corner. And I know a lot of you guys want me to get her involved in more and more stories, but she's also super cautious for good reason. Because she, as I said, takes this stuff incredibly seriously, and there's certain things and certain pieces of information that you can't just be tossing out there into the world all willy-nilly. So we're working on something that is a middle ground, a common ground, something that she's comfortable with talking about, experiences that she's comfortable with sharing, experiences that I was involved in that I need her permission to share with you guys. So we're working on it. I promise we're working on it. We're going to get more stories out there for y'all. We're going to get more details out there for y'all. There's going to be more part 1s and part 2s. And as I was saying before, the inspiration for Epstein Street comes from a lot of these experiences that I've had myself, and it's just me sort of piecing some of them together to come up with an original story. So if you haven't caught up on Epstein Street yet, make sure you go and do that now. Epstein Street part 1 and part 2 and part 3 and part 4 and part 5, and I'm working on the next part. I promise I am. Promise. But I want y'all to tell me in the comments if you're interested in seeing some of these stories come to life in animations, in acting, in episodes. And go ahead and read Zyla, catch up on that. Let me know if you want me to turn that into an animation, episodes, pick characters and actors to bring that to life. Check out my editor, Blake Quake Beats, my literary masterpieces, and make sure you subscribe. Thank you for joining.